as the crow flies on the Vance Crow podcast.
Matt Stubblefield, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
So you are one of my favorite, most important people in the world, and this is the first time we've ever met, and that is because when coronavirus hit and I went to the grocery store for the last time, I saw just how little meat was available, and I was really uncomfortable taking all of it just because I could afford it. So I asked my good friend Jason Bachman, who runs Strange Donuts, what would he do if he wanted to fill up his freezer? And he said, oh, you got to call Brush Creek Farms and see what's up with them. So I got online that night and ordered as much as I could possibly order. And 2 or 3 days later, you guys showed up, dropped a few boxes off at my house, and my whole family, my wife and I, my in-laws, my sister-in-law, all had meat. So I am grateful to you, and I'm so glad you could take a little bit of time to sit down and talk about local production.
Yeah, anytime, man. Anytime.
So you are outside of St. Louis, Missouri, and you're delivering pork, chicken, and beef. How is it that you're doing this? Because I can't go to just any farmer and say, hey, give me some chickens. That's not how that works.
Right. No. So a couple years ago, I decided to make the switch where I wanted to start delivering. And we had to invest in a few things. You know, I got a walk-in freezer. I bought an old keg trailer from a Anheuser-Busch distributing place, scrapped it out, made it to where I could haul meat around, and got to know our local butchers that are, you know, state approved or USDA.
And so what is the process? You have a cow. Assume the audience doesn't know anything at all about this. You get a cow and you raise it on pasture. How are you doing this? And then walk me all the way to it gets slaughtered and you deliver it to my house.
Okay, so from you have cow and a bull, and we start from that part, or you go? Okay. Cow bull takes cow about 9 months after she gets pregnant to have a calf. Wean that calf at about 6 months, and when that calf gets about 900 pounds, so let's say about a year, I'll start feeding it grain. I'll have it on pasture up until that point, and then I like to get it to weighing about 1,000 to 1,100 pounds probably, and I keep it on pasture the whole time, but I feed it out. Take it to the butcher shop and let him take care of it from there.
And your butcher shop, this is a guy that's also selling out the front door, or it's like a meat locker? Describe this for people that have no idea how butchering works or slaughtering works.
Okay, so they've got their own cow herd. You know, they raise beef themselves. They buy pork from other producers, so they butcher it, and then they have people come up to their front door, fulfill orders if they need it, hamburger, steaks, whatnot. Or then if they have other farmers bring their product in, they'll butcher it for them.
And so you're bringing in a live cow to them, and then they knock it with one of those air guns in the head, or how do they do that?
Yes. Yeah. Take care of it real quick. They're good.
So tell me your business, when you were starting up, you're doing the local, like Joel Salatin. So, you know, just for full disclosure, I was a Monsanto guy that actually came to Monsanto really reluctantly. But once I saw, hey, this is the superpower that is hyper efficiency. You can create supply on a level that most people can't imagine. And my brother was doing the Joel Salatin method. And I remember thinking, oh, that's cute, right? Like, that's so neat that you can do that. And, you know, people that want that luxury or that little bit of fatted chicken, fine. But that's not really all that important. Fast forward to 2020, and it's probably one of the most important things in the world. But there had to have been a time where you were breaking away from the traditional system and doing this. What made you decide, like, I'm going to go break off and start doing my own local thing?
Oh, man. So couple of the reasons. One was I wanted to be able to guarantee what kind of price I was going to get. You never know what the market fluctuation was going to be. And if you bought calves weighing a lot, I mean, if you bought calves at a high price and the market dropped, you're kind of screwed. You didn't have a choice over that. Another thing were the numbers. When you're running a traditional system, you got to run a lot more numbers. The more cattle you run, the harder it is on your ground. The muddier it gets, more equipment you got to have to try to keep up with it. It's more of a fight. I got a Joel Salatin book was given to me. I got to reading it, and it just made sense to me, you know. Using pasture to raise your animals, then you set your own price to the market. And what I've seen through this virus is when you have local producers, that's kind of like a rock for the community. You know, it's something they can count on. They don't need to count on the grocery stores and the big producers as much.
So a lot of people don't realize that most cattle producers, they have a bunch of land where they can let their cows pasture on it. And then when they get to a certain size, because you want the cow to go from being 900 pounds up to 1,100 or 1,400 or whatever, they sell them into a feeder operation where then they're in pens and you feed them grain. And once you do that, then they get sold to a packing house. And that packing house buys those live cows at an auction. And you, as the producer, the guy that held the land at the beginning, you're completely dependent on what do the guys at the packing houses want to sell for. When you break away and you do this system, though, now you got to find customers. So you actually were taking some risk when you went to move into this local system. What was it like building up a business from nothing, essentially?
Nothing. It was different. It was very different. Told a lot of people about it. A lot of people, whenever I told my friends I was doing it, said you're crazy. Some people said it was a good idea. We started off going to farmers markets, and we kind of had that first experience, like you were saying. Like everyone said, that's cute. That's a cute idea. At the farmers market, they want to support local. Walk around with a little bag, buy a couple things from me, not a lot. But once we started getting good clients that really appreciated good meats, good quality meat delivered to them efficiently, that's when everything really started turning around for us. Word of mouth has been our best seller, for sure.
It's been shocking to me because, so I grew up in the Midwest. I'm the middle child of 7. And so I had pork chops growing up, but I had pork chops that were maybe like a quarter of an inch thick and, steamed down, pressed down. So they were terrible. And when I received this box from you, when it showed up and I was like, oh, great, pork chops. Lots of pork chops. And then I had one and I cooked it sous vide. So are you familiar with sous vide?
No, I'm not.
So sous vide is this like very cool contraption that's like a water bath. And then you put the meat inside of a plastic bag and you suck out all the air and then you put it in this water bath. So for a pork chop, I think I do like 145 for 4 hours. And instead of the meat, like when you put it on a grill where it spikes up to the temperature to kill the pathogens and then you want to get it off as quick as you can, this takes the meat and just has it at that constant temperature for a really long time. So all of the tougher parts of the meat can break up and then the fat is totally ready to be thrown on a grill or on a cast iron skillet where you then have that Maillard effect where you get that nice browning crisp. So I have made bad pork chops okay with the sous vide. But then I did yours with the sous vide, and it was like I was eating I don't want to misdescribe it, but like a giant piece of bacon that was like, it was like the most glorious thing. And I went from being like, I never understood why people ate pork chops to being like, why don't people eat pork chops every day?
Well, it's amazing like having like pigs on pasture when they get a variety diet, sunshine, fresh air, how much of a difference that tastes with the meat. Like it changes the taste and the texture altogether.
It really does. Like the fat that used to be on a pork chop was just gristle, right? You'd chew it up as much as you could to get the flavor out and then kind of like put it down on the side of this plate and hope nobody noticed it. But yours is a totally different experience. It's amazing. And now I look at that and I think, what an amazing time to be alive, because there have been this surge of people that have been able to go on and do local producing and getting the word out. How did you use a program called like Barn to Door or something like that?
Yeah.
So how did you get hooked up with that? How did that all get set up?
Now they contacted my wife one day. I think they're, if I remember, at a Seattle-based company, and they help small farmers all over the U.S. with their websites and selling it. Because that's one thing farmers aren't really good at, is being tech savvy. So they definitely have a market there, to contact these people and help them walk them through the process of the business.
And so they help you guys do all the selling and the buying and the, organizing, that kind of stuff. And then you can focus on being a farmer, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. They help with the website and the inventory and stuff like that.
So you were telling me before we turned the camera on that your family used to own an auction house and be a part of like and you still are. You're selling most of your cattle to the major packing houses. What do you think is going on with coronavirus? You're probably watching the plant closures as much as anybody. What do you think's going on there?
Man, it's hard to say. I know the market's dropped quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, and I mean, it can go two ways. If the market drops like this, what really could happen is a lot of farmers could start selling off their product because they don't have any money in it. They don't want to, start selling their breeding stock because there's no money in it. They don't want to be able to keep something that costs them money. You know what I mean?
I think most people don't realize that it costs money to keep cattle. Not only do you have to, if you don't have them on pasture, you got to give them grain, but you also got to keep them vaccinated, keep them from getting sick, keep them from having any of those problems. So every day you have a cow that's ready to be sold, that's not sold, you're losing money.
Absolutely losing money. And a lot of people start selling off, they'll flood the market. And when they flood the market, they'll keep the price. So what I think would happen if something like that did happen, in a couple of years, the price would go back up and it'll level itself off. But I don't know.
And so as we were talking before, I was saying one of the realizations that I've had in the last few days is that we really genuinely are in a post-coronavirus world, meaning that the world that we were in, that doesn't exist. And we're going to be in something different. And now I'm starting to anticipate, maybe not that we'll be in the total quarantine lockdown for 18 months, but that no matter what, big things have changed for the next 18 months. When I look at that, I look at, hey, I got to pivot my business. I got to change what I'm offering my customers, how much I'm doing stuff online. What does 18 months of coronavirus world look like for you and your family and your business?
18 months of coronavirus world. That's going to be a pretty crazy time. I see our internet sales going up quite a bit. I really don't know how to answer that, man.
I don't think anybody does, right? I don't think anybody does. So you're in a great position because you found a way to have a butcher, right? I think there are a lot of guys right now in the country that are saying, hey, I got these cows. I know there's consumer demand right now. What would you recommend about them if they wanted to pivot their business in some way to be able to supplement where the market may be falling off in?
Right. I was just once talking to their local butchers, finding out when they have days open, talk to their friends and family, see if they know anybody where they're getting their meat from, see if they can't fulfill orders that way. And, social media has been a great help for us. Talk about what you do on the farm. People always want to hear a background story.
How has been social media? In the past, it was probably a lot of like, oh, it's so cute to see your cows. And now it's probably a little more panicked.
Right. It used to be a lot more. It's really cute to see your cows. How sweet that is. You and your family are doing this together. To how can I get your meat? Please supply it to me. We need it now. Yeah. It's a very different ball game.
And you have a unique system in that, people can come to your website and they can buy like, hey, I want to get some beef, or hey, I want to get some chicken, or you actually allow a form of almost futures trading, right? Which is you can buy a box of meat on a monthly basis. Talk about that, because that's why I loved what you guys were doing so much.
Okay, yeah, we have what's called a subscription program. So you buy a subscription box. Once in a month, we will drop this box off at your house, and it's an insulated box, so you don't have to be home. And it's packed full of about 20 to 30 pounds of frozen meat. And it's a variety of beef, chicken, and pork. If you're a subscriber, we will give you guys the first chance to get the meat, and we'll deliver it once a month. So you're locked in. Every month you're going to get a box. And that's – go ahead.
I mean, I love that because it allows you to start saying like, hey, how much of our livestock can we put to this system? It allows actually like a futures trading without me doing it in the commodities market, but actually helping do futures for my own house, my own family.
Right. It's a good investment, I think.
So how's business been, man? What's the difference between pre-corona and now post-corona?
People ask a lot more about their orders when their orders are coming in.
I bet.
It used to be kind of like, I think when people used to buy from us, it was more of like a fun thing to do. Like, let's try this local farmer out. Let's see what kind of steaks he has. Let's give him a shot. Now it's, can you supply my family with 20 pounds of ground beef every month kind of thing.
And so, how do you think you're going to be able to keep up with the demand?
I think so. So right now it happens so quick. We start selling out of inventory. We start doing pre-orders. We're doing everything we can to let everybody know what's going on. But now that we've had time to kind of step back and look at the business, I can bring in more cattle I fulfilled more butcher orders, and so from here on out, we can definitely expand and keep getting more customers.
So how about you and your family? Like, this has got to be a weird time because you're a business that is essential, and so you're doing well, but you've also got to be a little afraid for, your own health and the health of your system. What's going on in your mind?
Well, it's kind of a weird thing. Like, we're trying to keep social distancing. That's a thing. We're staying at home, quarantine, except whenever I'm farming, which is basically quarantine outside. That's not a big deal. Then we take precautions during delivery and really just taking every precaution because we just can't risk it. You know what I mean? We do have a good business going on, and I don't want to. If I'm out of work, then I don't want to, short people on their food supply.
Amen. I think that if there's one thing that has come out of this, it is that there's a widened attention on the food supply. But I would say probably the biggest danger that we have right now in the country is that people don't understand the food supply system, right? Like, and on the one hand, you don't want to create a panic because the packing houses have done a good job of continuing to run, continuing to move cattle and pork through. But then you start seeing these closures and you start, like, at least I am wincing a little bit. Like, I'm like, oh man, what happens if you take off one of the largest pork processors in the country? What happens if they go offline? I don't know. I don't know how long our cold supplies are. I don't know how much we were exporting and now we can hold back for imports, but it seems to me like we're in a precarious time.
I think that's going to be one of the big effects of the coronavirus. I think you're going to see a lot more of these big packing plants close, and you're going to see a lot more small butcher shops open up, local farmers, things like that.
Yeah, imagine if you had found a parent that just a few months ago had been like, my son or daughter wants to be a butcher, they'd be losing their minds. But now, I mean, that is a real career. There is a super demand for butchers right now.
It's a lost art that people are really learning now.
Do you know how to do it? Can you slaughter a cow?
Never done a beef. I used to do a lot of pigs. I used to butcher a pig every year for a barbecue ahead of my house. And I just kind of old school like that. My uncle had a little butcher shop made at his farm. We used to process them there when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lost art. I was in the Peace Corps, and I had the opportunity or the honor one time to slit the throat of a goat. And that was an unbelievable experience that I remember at the time thinking, like, I'm going to walk past how horrifying this is and just deal with it. And now I'm like, man, everybody should be somewhat closer to it, having done it at least once. If you've never killed a chicken or you've never killed a goat, you don't really know how vital and important a butcher is.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And it's you need that connection. You need to know where your food comes from. You need to know it's a living, breathing thing. You don't need to take that for granted.
Yeah, I have some buddies, Joseph and Michael Ring, who are the Ring brothers, and they run a feeding operation, and they were showing me, like, sometimes they have to get cows slaughtered, and they showed me the head being cut and having the blood come out of it. And it was like, it is a really good thing to know that this is what's going on, that there's a live animal there, and that, it was breathing just before this. I don't know. It definitely connects you in a way that we have been distanced because of our grocery store.
No, and that is a big thing. And you hear a lot of people, they have such a disconnect of where their food comes from. It's almost unbelievable. You know what I mean? They don't understand the process of it at all.
So how is Missouri, the state of Missouri, for processing and certification? Is there anything that could be removed that would make food still be safe, but make it easier to get to market?
Make it more efficient, make it quicker. I haven't really had any problems finding the butcher shop or having the license to deliver the meat or anything like that.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. It's pretty efficient.
So just as a guy that's producing livestock, you've got to be thinking pretty far ahead. What are your next moves? How are you going to pivot your business? What are your plans here?
Well, definitely holding more back for butcher because I definitely see the demand for it. And I might start concentrating on selling some bred cattle, maybe something, because I think there's going to be a lot of people that want to start farming themselves. And,
say more about that.
Well, we've had a lot of people call us wanting to know where to buy chickens, things like that. So I started selling, actually, I have about 100 laying hens I was going to start this spring. Instead of selling the eggs, I'm just going to start selling the chickens off of them.
Oh,
There's a lot of people there are interested in being able to farm themselves and take care of their own family. I'm sure you're going to see a lot of greenhouses go up for sale too.
I bet. Do you also grow your own produce? I mean, are you guys relatively self-sufficient?
Yeah. My dad, he loves having a garden. He always has. And we've always had chickens, taking care of ourselves that way. Absolutely.
And so how far away do you guys deliver? So right now, if somebody's listening and they live outside of St. Louis, like how far will you guys go?
Well, we live in Crawford County, which is about, if you live along I-44, we'll deliver anywhere between Crawford County and St. Louis, that direction. We'll deliver to Rolla, Missouri, which is the opposite direction. It's about 30 minutes out. And we have a couple customers that are asking about Jeff City, and we're starting to head down that way.
And as people want to find you, how do they find your website? How do they look in on you on Facebook?
So our website's brushcreekvalley.com. Facebook, I think it's the same thing, Brush Creek Valley Farms.
Well,
Instagram or social media.
It was, I will remember the day that you guys dropped a box of food off at my house, and I was watching you guys drive your truck away. I just came out a little too late. And I felt a sense of gratitude and thanksgiving like I'd never felt before. And so thank you, man. I want your business to succeed wildly. I hope you get tons of orders in. And if there's anything that we can do to help you guys be more successful, just let me know.
Well, I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on the podcast so I can talk to people about it. I really appreciate it.
Great, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. Thanks. Get back to farming, man.
All right, man. Have a good one.